All right, how's it going? What's up? My name is Justin. I wanted to do a little brief overview on because I feel like there's a lot of misinterpretation or misinformation out there of, or just confusion overall of what the Knicks should do. The reigning defending champion, New York Knicks now, what they should do when it comes to the second apron. So there's been rumors. A lot of people are worried right now in Knicks world. There's been rumors or direct information from James Dolan himself, the owner of the Knicks, saying blatantly we cannot go into the second apron. He said that on WFAN radio, and so usually that's immediate cause of concern right now because they're very close to the second apron for one, and two, you have two massive parts of your rotation and Landry Shamet and Mitchell Robinson that you're looking to re-sign this offseason. And if you're not able to go to the second apron, you're either losing one or both players, which would be massive hits to the Knicks timeline because they were crucial parts of pretty much their run in the entire season. So on the surface, immediately you're like, oh my God, they're not going over the second apron. Something that leaves me a little bit encouraged. I mean, we're going to see more when it comes to the draft. I think we'll get a very clear indication if the Knicks are going to go over or not based on how they operate in the first round, whether they're going to shed their first round pick for decrease the amount of money they're spending on players. Because I think the 24th pick that they have, they'd be paying the player 3.4 million, I believe. I don't have it on my books right here until they actually make the selection, but if they traded out of the draft and then they signed a veteran minimum, that would be basically saving $900,000 because veteran minimums are like 2.45 million for next season. So immediate cause of concern if we're not heading over the second apron. But the reason that I come away a little encouraged is because there seemed to be a little bit of a hesitancy from James Dolan when he was talking about it. And then he said he also, ending the statement, he said he would leave every personnel decision at the hands of Leon Rose, the Knicks president. So he's been willing to write checks in the past. He's been paying tax basically the last two seasons. The Knicks have done a great job not going over the second apron. And we did also get a report 3 weeks ago around the end of May that from Tim Bontemps of ESPN basically stating that the Knicks' priority will be to get Mitchell Robinson and Shamet back on 2-year deals, as the Knicks are likely to go well into the second apron next season and the following, which is what I've tried to explain for the past couple days since hearing the James Dolan statement on the radio. And then a couple other Cap guys on Twitter have both said the same thing, basically stating that it would be very destructive for the Knicks to not go over the second apron at this point. And the difference is, so really quick, I want to go over what the actual penalties are because I think this is where people get kind of confused. There's always this perception of the second apron, and everybody's like, "Oh shoot, we can't go over this." Like, there's a bunch of penalties. Barely any teams go over this, and obviously we've only been 2 years into this new CBA, so 2-3 years. So we haven't really been able to see that much, but there's reasons why there's certain teams that went over the second apron and dipped back out, like the Boston Celtics. They used to be a second apron team, I believe, for a season, and then that right after their championship, so they felt comfortable coming back the next season and paying heavy tax. But once Tatum went down, they went back and said, all right, we're trading all these guys to get back under, because why pay the second apron if you're not going to be a really, really good team? So for the Knicks coming off a championship, you want to be able to re-sign these guys. And if you're not going to be able to re-sign both or even one, potentially, you might as well go over. Because looking at these penalties, For one, you're not able to use your taxpayer mid-level exception in free agency if you're over the second apron, which is not a big deal to me. I think people get confused also of what this means or how much they would actually get in this case. So the taxpayer mid-level exception is given to teams that are over the first apron, and that is, I believe, for next season 6.1 million. So there's other teams that are under the first apron currently that would have access to, I believe, a $15 million mid-level exception. The Knicks would just only be losing a $6 million exception, but at the expense of losing Shamet and losing Mitchell Robinson. Why do we care about a $6 million mid-level exception when you can sign these guys for more, and there's no other players on that market for that market price of $6 million that will outplay those guys more than likely. And you can't combine multiple players' salary in one trade, which is not a big deal to me either. Especially because you should be pretty confident in the group you have, considering they just won a championship. Sending cash, not a big deal. Use trade exceptions created in prior years. The Knicks, I don't think, even have done this in the Leon Rose era. So that's also not a worry. Sign and trade, same thing. And then this is the big one that you're kind of slightly suffering in the short term, is that they won't be able to use their 2033 unprotected pick this offseason. But another thing you gotta also consider is, if I look at right here, I have all the Knicks draft picks right here. They will be able to trade their swap in 2032. Obviously, due to the Stepien rule, you can't trade firsts in consecutive seasons, but you can trade swaps in consecutive seasons. So as much as they traded their 2029 to Brooklyn and their 2031 to Brooklyn for Mikal Bridges, fuck them picks, you are able to trade swaps in the other every other season. And you've seen Phoenix do this, and it's not very commendable for them to do that because they're not a contending team, but the Knicks are. So they should feel comfortable utilizing this if they wanted to upgrade the roster. So I'm not too worried about not being able to trade this currently for this season at least. But eventually the next offseason they will be able to trade this, because then the 7-year rule moves to 2034, and then that's not considered you trading consecutive years. So kind of have to wait it out a season, but I think the roster is good enough as it is to re-sign the guys and just worry about whatever later. The issue is eventually what makes the second apron really worrying for teams is if they're in it 3 seasons in a row consecutively, that pick from 7 years out, so let's say in the 2028 offseason, they go in it for a third time, which they won't be doing because everybody is worried about this clause in the CBA, is that the 2035 pick eventually, when we get to the 2028 offseason, it'll automatically be moved to the back of the first round, number 30 in the first round, if they are over the second apron for 3 consecutive years. But by that point, as Tim Bontemps described, you're likely re-signing Robinson and Shamet to 2-year deals. So this is what I kind of had hypothetically. Mitchell Robinson signing for 2 year $30, $15 million annually. Landry Shamet signing for 2 years $20. And I believe there was a cap dude online, I forget his name, but he gave the idea of putting a non-guarantee on the second season for Shamet. So he gets a nice little pay increase, and so does Mitchell Robinson slightly. But given the injury history and given that he's 28 and didn't give crazy production in the finals, but what is still a very, very capable backup, I think this is his market price at this point. So if you front load them right now, go over the second apron, in 2027, 2028, you're over the second apron again. Then eventually there's going to be so many players off the books at this point. Obviously, you got to consider for Brunson's extension, which is going to be hefty because we owe him. because he's going to decline his player option for that season, which is worth $43 million, which is way under what his market value will eventually be. He'll probably sign for upwards of 65 to 70 million at that point, which is going to be a blow. But at that point, Towns is going to get a new deal. But I expect with him going to his mid-30s that it'll be likely less than what this number describes. So if you eventually account, obviously you're going to have to take my word for it because I don't have it all written down here. If you account for a bunch of these contracts coming off the books and the Knicks and the second apron number going up and up and up. So right now it's at 222 million. Eventually by this point, it's going to be at 252 million. So that's $30 million extra that they have room for, plus all these contracts coming off the books. And Josh Hart by that time being, I believe 34, 35, probably not making as much as he is right now. They have a lot of time to renegotiate and figure out a plan in 2028, 2029 when they need to get back under to figure out a way to reconstruct the roster while keeping their main core. And who knows, by that point, you're heavy competing in the 2027 season, the 2028 season. Who knows what can happen by then? At that point, maybe some of the players that we cherish greatly underperform. Maybe the Knicks find another option or a draft pick. Let's say they draft someone 24th this year and they pop. They are a big diamond in the rough. You have them for cheap, and then you're more willing to move off of a high salary player by that point. But I'm really just looking for the short term of what we have. There is no way I am letting Mitchell Robinson and Landry Shamet walk out the door, just so I can use my 2033 pick this offseason and not wait a season. Bottom line, people really exaggerate the repercussions of going over the second apron. I'm not very worried. I kind of got worried once I saw this because then I was like, it's either Dolan has a misunderstanding of what their cap situation is, or he's kind of putting them in a bind and they won't be able to re-sign players. The best course of action is to definitely go over the second apron. If they don't do that, then we have to sit here and we need to find different ways to move on the margins. I know I'm just going to quickly go over these two players, because I feel like they are also very important to touch on. Jose Alvarado. If they are going to go over the second apron, I do want Alvarado to decline his $4.5 million player option and then to potentially sign for, I'm going to follow the 2-year time frame that I was just talking about, maybe signing for 2-year $16 million deal or 2-year 14. If he's making $7 million a year, he goes up from 4.5 to 7. We're fine with paying him more right now because we might as well just pay money if we can, because we have his bird rights. We have Mitchell Robinson's bird rights. We have Landry Shamet's bird rights. So you just play the players, whatever it may be, and you don't have to worry about anything as long as we keep that 2028 offseason clear, besides their main core. And Mo Diawara, you look at that, I really am not that concerned that a team will give him real money, considering this is not a way to put down what Mo Diawara could potentially be or his potential, but he is only averaging 3.6 points per game, and obviously he's playing only 9 minutes a game. But there's not a lot of cases in the history of NBA where someone coming off a $1.1 million contract or a second round pick eventually after their first season gets a massive pay increase. And the most I can see someone giving Mo Diawara is maybe $5 million a year. potentially, and that's even like pushing it a little bit. But there's no concern because then the Knicks can match any contract that comes their way or any offer that comes Mo Diawa's way. The only concern would be, like I said, if they stay under the second apron, the money's tight, and if someone gives Mo Diawara an offer sheet and the Knicks want to re-sign Shamet, you're basically choosing between the two of them. So it eventually just gets extremely tough if they stay under. There's a lot more negatives than positives. You don't want to really rely on late second round rookies who are going to make barely any money just to stay under the apron, or having to trade the 24th pick to save tax, to let Shamet go, let Robinson go, have to make a choice. Like, it doesn't really make any sense to me. I'd rather just go over. As long as Dolan's okay with spending out of his pocket, there is no real repercussions. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but this is really what it comes down to. And it would be very disappointing if we start hearing confirming news that the Knicks won't be going over the apron, because then we lose pretty decent amount of our core. So just wanted to kind of detail that. It was something I'm interested in. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to educate. I do want to make more videos. It doesn't even need to be Knicks specific. I do want to make this kind of like a neutral channel where I'm talking about anything basketball related. I do want to eventually get a face cam because I feel like it's more personal if you're able to put a face to a name. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. They're only going to get better from here. This is my first time doing this. But yeah, that's about it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I did write a lot on my Twitter regarding the Knicks cap situation, so you can always check it out on there. All right, appreciate it.